Well, hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Inferno, hoping that you all are doing well. In this video, continue playing game Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft, where we continue discovering what the story of Dagon gonna reveal to us, if this island that we found ourselves in is it a dream or is it some kind of reality? I don't know. Interested to see how it's gonna end. That being said, let's get started. Alright, close to the next step. The loner. Contrary to popular opinion, Lovecraft was not an ever-frowning, eccentric, grumpy loner. He considered himself to be a person who appreciated humor. Moreover, he would often meet with friends in his apartment or at various cafes in Brooklyn and Manhattan. At times, his social life was so intensive his work would suffer for months. There was a point when he finally decided he needed to put an end to daily meetings and loitering in New York cafeterias and resorted to hiding at home and reading with the main room light turned off, pretending he wasn't there. Whenever a friend knocked on his door, he also had another method of deterring his guests, which involved greeting them in a bathroom with an unmade bed visible in the background and piles of paper scattered across the floor. Okay, moving on.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Nothing on this subject itself, okay.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
I'll think here as well.
for despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Go.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
This water seems not that deep. So, will it cross it to reach this smallest?
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
That's the Beyond Cthulhu. Storytelling methods. Dagon contained many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, the Shadow Out of Time, the Hunter of the Dark, Island Emerging from the Ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional being and deities based on real events and mythologies. Miku and the Worshipper in Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu Mythos. Some of the Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending. Else.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Dore. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seemed to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Let's... Oh, okay. Interesting. Here it shows as if he's holding some kind of spear, the elder sign, stabbing the whale. Okay. This one is tricky as well. The Piltdown man. Lovecraft would often use the latest scientific discoveries as inspiration for his works. He would even update his stories at the last moment in order to make sure they reflected the latest breakthroughs. Unfortunately, the method was not without its flaws. After Lovecraft's death, the Piltdown man discovery mentioned in Dagon turned out to be a paleoanthropological fraud. Okay. In 1920, Charles Dawson, an amateur archaeologist, announced that he had discovered the missing link between ape and man, the fossilized remains of previously unknown early human. Years later, they turned out to be a forgery, but by that point, the fraud had already managed to negatively affect the earlier research on human evolution. In the year when the discovery took place, the majority of the scientific community believed Dawson indeed found the missing link. In 1953, Time magazine published evidence proving that Dawson was a conman. It turned out that the fossil of the previously unknown early human consisted of a human skull, the jaws of an orangutan, and chimpanzee teeth. Right?
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface,
what's
the
that?
thing slid into view above the dark waters. Confused-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the planet, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
You run.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
Okay,
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Prince of Dagon. In 1921, Lovecraft released a series of 3 essays: The Defense Reopens, The Defense Remains Open, and The Final Words, later published as a collection titled The Defense of Dagon, in which he debunked a series of criticism directed at his work. Some notable quotes: "I paint what I dream and will let the public settle the rest amongst themselves. Mr. Monday asked the reason d'etre, I think, of Dagon. I will give it purely and simply to reproduce a mood. Its objective is the simplest in all art: portrayal. The physical horrors of war, no matter how extreme and unprecedented, hardly have a bearing on the entirely different realm of supernatural terror. Ghosts are still ghosts, and the mind can get more thrills from unrealities than from realities." In the essay, Lovecraft touches upon the topic of atheism, materialism, the quest for truth, and the love of the science. Okay, another one. Lovecraft, the journalist. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example, except from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the Conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm one or more, nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic ambitions to whatever in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare until the basic impulses of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Too many notes back to back here. I need to take a breath. First place that has more than one. Oh, well, third one. The exit. Anything else? The atheist. Lovecraft considered himself an atheist and absolute materialist, which he attributed partially to his early childhood interest in astronomy and science in general, in his own words. I am indeed an absolute materialist so far as of actual belief goes, with not a shred of credence in any form of supernaturalism, religion, spiritualism, transcendentalism, metapsychosis, and immorality. Well, I say that I think it is damned unlikely that anything like central cosmic will, a spirit world, or an eternal survival of personality exists. Okay, I need to take a break. Okay, you can read the rest if you like. And we move on.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Suspecting found something in here. Okay. Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped through the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. H.P. Lovecraft quotes Dagon is an underworld deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Historic Order of Dagon. Alright.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
360 view. So are expecting more than one. It is where we should go. Necronomicon. Oh. So I have two here. August Derlewis and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derlewis was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his work through his company Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popular whatever of the author works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derrish was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu Mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It's also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in the creating of a mythology, and the term Cthulhu Mythos was coined by Delrith after the author left the mortal plane. Okay. The marketer or marketeer. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for Marketing magazine, where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copyright skills for yourself. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna read that. Okay. Moving on. So, 2 here. Moving on. See the clock. Oh. The scientist. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published, it was subject to wide debates. After the author used it in the story, critics pointed out that the man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted that in the defense of Dagon, that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientist was coined as an analog to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet in 19th century and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and United States were of the opinion that man of science, resembling the term man of letters, was the only proper choice. Among other things, it was gender specific, indicating that the science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. But the term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and man of science started fading into obscurity as old-fashioned synonym. Okay. Not mixed of interesting and not interesting at all info.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Came back.
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Oh, find 1, 2. Not much to see. Okay, let's pick this one first. Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friends Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated 13th February 1928. Alright. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intended to. Having a strong aesthetic digest and at anything which blunts or coarses the delicate nature equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I'm rather in favor of prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as of any other. Okay. Another sign. At another house where people were stirring, he asked questions about the gods and whether they dance often upon Lyrian. But the farmer and his wife would only make the elder sign and tell him the way to Mir and Yulthar, the dream quest of unknown goddess H.P. Lovecraft. Elder sign is a protective symbol that can be found in various works of pop culture, usually represented by a five-pointed star with an eye flamed symbol in its center. For example, in games inspired by H.P. Lovecraft writings, it is supposed to ward only all kinds of cosmic horrors. However, this is a later version of the sign created by the author friend, writer August Delerith. In our game, we have used the original symbol as designed by Lovecraft in the form of a six-pointed branch, which he sometimes included in letters to his friends. Okay. Move on.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. The end is near.
Oh. Someone is knocking gently.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Stripping. Skip ignoring you. Okay,
It
hold on.
shall not find me.
It find me.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
Hey, jump. Oh. Didn't know that we are high level. Hey, thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out other games and DLCs. Alright. Now let's talk about the game. In terms of graphics, the game has really great graphics. Details make it more of a game than just some kind of visual novel to read. Along with the gameplay, you can say it's more like a point and click game, excluding collecting items and inventory as mentioned earlier. And the game will restart. But yeah, searching for like this elder sign makes the game more interesting than just a walking simulator or something like that with some spoken narrative and notes to read. Music and sound effects, I like the sound effects put you in the mood, along with the graphic details put you in the world of the myth and of the Cthulhu Mythos realm, which are interesting to me. And that brought us to the story. For me, it's the first time to hear about Dagon as a story. My knowledge about H.P. Lovecraft is limited to Cthulhu and his sea cult creature, hybrid of human and fish. I didn't get a chance to read any of his stories, so this is a good one and turns out to be like his first story published. Along of course with some of the notes mentioned in the Elder Sign showing how it started and his change from making poetry moving to making weird horror stories that they mentioned in these notes. Regarding the notes itself, there are quite a lot of them, but they are somehow well mixed along with the story of Dagon itself. But some of them, I don't know, I feel like they are stretched way more than it should be. Some of them might be not adding anything, might be to knowing the H.P. Lovecraft himself as a person. Also, the capital letters. I don't know why these notes are set like that. As I mentioned earlier, it's make it harder for me to read it or able to catch the whole word from start to end. Because all capital letters. But it was managed somehow. Lots of big words. I get lost to spell them, but yeah. In total, I like the game. And I might play the 2 DLCs. I think they have like shorter stories than this one in the future. Yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna end this video here, hoping that you enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.